AI is fundamentally changing the way that we work on a daily basis. This isn't like a spreadsheet or a calculator. This is like way bigger than that.
I work with small business owners, and I think this is also a space where, that's really needed. But honestly, It feels like besides ChatGPT, most of us don't really know how to excel with AI.
What we're experiencing right now, this is not a tools and technology problem. This is a people and psychology problem, right? That this is changing the way that we work. This is a people and psychology problem. The tools and technology are minor in comparison.
Hello, and welcome to Small Biz Catalyst. This show is for entrepreneurs who want to consistently make a growing six-figure salary from their business. I've empowered over 20,000 students and entrepreneurs through financial leadership workshops, training, and courses. Every week, we delve into innovative strategies, success stories, and actionable insights to empower small business owners as catalysts of economic resilience. Whether you're interested in community development, economic policy, or entrepreneurship, this podcast is for you. Let's dive into today's topic. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Small Biz Catalyst. And today we are talking about AI. I know you've all had AI here, AI this, AI gurus, all on YouTube and every platform possible. And I think one of the things that's done it for me, it's like I'm always very skeptical. Like, what's real? What can I use? And, what's just noise? And so today, if you are in for a treat, you're not getting any AI noise. No, you are not. You're going to get AI tools and tips that you can use as not only as a small business owner, but as an economic development professional. So we have Katie, Milton, Jordan, and I'm going to let her tell you about herself because she's worn every hat of everyone that this podcast is created for. So if you're a small business owner, she's in your shoes. If you're an economic development professional, she has been in your shoes and currently working with economic development professionals across the U.S. and possibly across the world, maybe? Well, why don't you take it home for us, Katie?
Excellent. Thank you so much. It's such a pleasure to be here. And of course, I'm very passionate about this subject. So I could talk about it at length, and I will make sure to distill my nerdy AI passion for the most value for your audience. But yeah, I'm Katie Milton Jordan. My resume reads a little bit like a carnival. So I've worn a variety of hats in my career, and there's always been a through line of entrepreneurship and bringing value to communities that has connected all of the projects that I've worked on. But yeah, most recently as an economic development practitioner, I was in the role of deputy director and interim executive director for the Kerr Economic Development Corporation in Kerrville, Texas.
Go Texas!
And now I am in a small community, Mason, Texas. Our population is about 4,000 in the entire county. So I also wear a rural hat. I have a big heart for rural leaders and rural business owners that deal with some interesting challenges due to their rural nature, but I also think that there's tons of opportunity there. So very excited to be here and sharing with you the work that I'm doing in the AI Performance School for Economic Developers. Folks can find more information on that at simpleedo.ai.
Thank you so much for introducing yourself and sharing that information. So we're going to put that link in the show notes.
Excellent.
So you were recently in San Antonio. What was happening there?
Yeah, I was in San Antonio for some continuing education because we're in the process of rolling out our CEO AI operating system. And it was a 1.5 day intensive training. I want to say that there were maybe 10 CEOs that were present for that. It was just mind-blowing, and what is possible for small business owners, organizations, economic development organizations in AI. What's possible right now was literally not possible 30 days ago. So it's a very exciting time, and I'm getting mind blown on a daily basis. So
Wow. So you work with small business too, not just economic development professionals.
well, my niche industry is in economic development organizations, specifically executive directors and CEOs, the executive leadership team. And there have been a handful of leaders from the private space, privately held companies, and even nonprofit organizations that have reached out to me and said, hey, you're doing this in economic development. Can you also help me? So there's definitely some overlap, certainly, and the majority of the work that I'm doing is specific to economic development organizations.
That's pretty cool. That's what I thought, and I'm so glad that there's someone in that space, because I feel the market is just right for that. So, anyways, we'll jump in, and thanks for sharing that. And because we're always thinking, I'm like, I work with small business owners, and I think this is also a space where that's really needed. But honestly,
Yes.
it feels like, besides ChatGPT, most of us don't really know how to excel with AI.
What is now possible for micro businesses and solopreneurs also has not been possible in the past. So right now, I am a micro business. And so I am doing a lot of the strategies that can really help micro businesses, solopreneurs, and small businesses. And what I've been finding is that the smaller the team, the bigger the impact. So
Oh, yeah. I mean, I've started using AI even for our RFPs and even to grade our RFPs. Um, and that's been such a game changer. I know it still gets it wrong sometimes, which is why I'm the brain, right? And so I have to go in and kind of say, this is that, and explain to it, and kind of like exceptions and stuff. And so far, I don't do a lot of RFPs. I forbid myself from doing a lot of RFPs for different reasons. So I don't do it unless I know that we absolutely have a great chance of really being considered seriously. That's my caveat.
Well, that makes a lot of sense. Knowing which RFPs to apply for and are in your lane and are going to, maximize your chances for success is part of the battle before you even start an RFP. It's funny. I had a student graduate from my AI workflow expert certification course at the end of January, and she was telling the group about a big win that she experienced. She had received that day at 11 a.m., she received an RFP that she needed to respond to, but the deadline was 5 p.m. And historically, it takes her several days, maybe even weeks to respond to an RFP.
Oh, yeah.
But she was able to respond to the RFP in 4 hours and meet the deadline and get it submitted by 5 p.m. And she said, I am so excited I could just puke. So today, that is one of my favorite testimonials. It just makes me laugh because I feel like it really conveys that visceral response for when the light bulb goes on for somebody and they finally realize what's possible.
Yeah.
When they use these tools, it really is. You kind of like our little kid. Like, I'm so excited I could just puke.
Hey dear, if you're just joining us, this is Small Biz Catalyst. We would like to invite you into our Tag a Business team. Here's what you need to do. Nominate a small business of your choice. Tag them on our website at smallbizcatalyst.org. That's small, BIZCATALYST.org. Tell us your name, give us your email address, because that's how we'll be able to tell you if you're a winner or not. And then give us a website to a business of your choice. It could be your business or somebody else's. Once you've tagged the business, you'll be entered for a $25 drawing to a local business of your choice. We'll announce winners every month. And now, back to the show. Okay, Katie, we have a few questions for you to help our audience, help you share your knowledge with our audience in a way that resonates. And so we're going to start with the rural and urban divide. I love that you stated that you're in the rural world, and we love rural and urban Texas. We also recognize that resources are not always evenly split, and that's okay. And that's why we exist. We want to support entrepreneurs in both rural and urban Texas so that we can thrive as a state. So, innovation often clusters in the Texas Triangle, but AI is a general purpose technology. How can economic development professionals in rural and mid-sized Texas communities use AI to level the playing field and attract remote-first companies or tech-enabled manufacturing?
Great question. And first, what I'd like to do is break this question into two parts, right?
Okay.
Because I feel like the first part is how can rural or mid-sized communities use AI to level the playing field? Feels like one question to me. And the second question is that how can they use it to attract the industries that they're looking for? And the good news is that AI doesn't care about your zip code. And I'm living proof of that. Like I said, in Mason County, we have 4,000 people in the entire county, and I'm able to run a competitive AI consultancy from a very rural area. I love that these tools level that playing field. You know, what we also see is that the smaller the team, the bigger the impact, right? And these communities, like the win for small teams and resource constrained communities is just enormous with what AI can do. And I would say almost greater than what you're seeing in metropolitan service areas or urban areas. But many times in rural communities, an advantage that they have over their urban neighbors is that they have speed and authenticity. Because typically in a small community, there's only maybe one or two levels of approval that you need before you can take action on a project. Whereas in a larger community, that could be, several committees deep and, 30-day meeting cycles. And it can take a long time to get momentum and get started. So small communities with smaller people have an opportunity to go to market faster. And they also have an opportunity to be authentic, right? There can be more personal outreach. And now when you partner that with AI fluency and AI tools, that is scalable. One of the biggest opportunities I think exists for small businesses and rural communities is that AI can help sharpen your value proposition that you use for storytelling. And that can help attract remote first companies, because these remote first companies that are considering these communities, they want quality of life, right? They want they want to know that there's broadband. They want to know that there's a community that cares and is active and doing impactful projects. And so I think that's one area where AI can really support small businesses and economic development organizations in rural areas. So to sum that up, I would say use AI for prospect research, researching the companies that you're looking to attract or collaborate with. You can also use it to scale your personal outreach, connecting for sales calls, demos, meetings, relationships, whatever it is. But it can also help with faster RFI response. So for an economic development professional in a small community, it can be a challenge to handle all the RFIs that come in from site selectors or the governor's office. But for one economic development organization that I'm working with currently, we have recently built an AI agent. It's an agent that you use with a human, because we also believe in having a human in the loop. That's going to compress their RFI response time from several days. Right now, I think it probably takes a week maybe a little bit longer, maybe 10 days to respond to an RFI and get all the information from the stakeholders. But we're compressing that down into a 24-hour response time, which is a huge win for these small communities who do have quality of life and who do have an opportunity to attract these companies that are looking for that quality of life and not a skyline.
That is so pretty cool. Thanks for sharing that. And just, I know, when we think about compressing tasks and things like that, there's a lot of dollars involved in that. So I can see a small community or even a large community, a rural or urban community, as they're compressing their times, just having more dollars available to do other things that make them more attractive to more companies. So that is so great. All right, let's go from paper pushing to strategy. A recent study suggested AI could improve professional productivity by 40%. For a small town EDC team with limited headcount, what are the low-hanging fruits? AI tools for automating grant writing, site selection research, or lead generation. And I feel like you touched a little bit on this in your first question.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and there's a lot of themes that are connecting in our conversation today, and I'm grateful for that because I think that it's going to bring your listeners even more value. But this is a fascinating question because there's a couple of things in here that I want to point out. One, the 40% productivity gain is actually conservative for small teams. I've actually seen productivity gains that are way higher than that.
Wow.
However, we want to be, if we actually publish the real productivity gain, people wouldn't believe us. So we always have to round it down so we can get folks to be like, okay, I'll listen to what you have to say because you don't sound like a lunatic, right? But the productivity gains are actually quite a bit more than 40%, especially for a small team. Like I said, the smaller the team, the bigger the impact. And another thing that I want to point out is that in your question, like, what are the tools that these teams can be using to help them? And I will answer that question directly. And before I do, I want to share that what we're experiencing right now, this is not a tools and technology problem. This is a people and psychology problem, right? So this isn't like historically we're like, okay, well, what are the tools that I need to have in my tech stack to do this thing that you're telling me to do, right? Mm-hmm. And I could sit here and be like, this software, this software, this software, this software. But that is not as important as understanding that this is changing the way that we work. This is a people and psychology problem. The tools and technology are minor in comparison. But that's also one of the big gaps for people. They don't recognize this. They don't understand this. So you'll see a lot of organizations. There are, in my opinion, there are three different ways an organization, whether it's a small business or an economic development organization, there are three ways they can choose to invest in AI. The first way has to do with AI products, right? So there's lots of software that is being sold at the moment that says, okay, our widget has AI baked in and it's going to help you do all of these things better, faster, cheaper, right? So that's a product that you buy and it's being marketed as like a silver bullet, right? Buy this one thing and your life is going to be perfect. Another way that organizations can invest in AI is through projects. So let's say that an organization determines, we need to install a chatbot on our website so that we can handle customer service in a better manner, right? That's a project that you would scope out inside your organization and you would hire an external expert to help you roll that out. And the third way that organizations can invest in AI is through their people and their processes. And what's happening in the marketplace right now is that almost everyone is rushing to invest in products and projects, and they're overlooking the people and the processes. They're overlooking the fact that AI is fundamentally changing the way that we work on a daily basis. This isn't like a spreadsheet or a calculator. This is like way bigger than that. So I think that people need to recognize that investing in people and processes first can inform what products and projects you invest in after that, because it does require an investment in all three. But leaders need to determine the sequence, timing, and pace of those investments. So I'm a strong advocate of investing in people and processes first. And that is the type of education that I offer, and the types of solutions that I've been offering economic development organizations to help them improve their productivity, increase their profitability, and for individual leaders, improve their promotability. With that said, I think that some ways that people can use AI that might be low hanging fruit are certainly going to be in R5 responses, like I mentioned earlier.
Yes.
And that's probably one of the number one pain points that EDO professionals tell me about. They're like, "Can you fix our RFI process?" I'm like, "Yes." And then they get really excited about it. So that's one thing. But also some other low-hanging fruit is going to have to do with prospect research and lead generation. So kind of like I was talking about at the top of the call, the way that I'm handling my go-to-market funnel. Economic development organizations can do a similar go-to-market funnel inside their EDO if they're trying to attract workforce partners, for example, or cross-industry stakeholders, or reaching out to a site selection CEO, or even networking with the office of the governor. So those are some other low-hanging fruit examples. And the third example I'll share with you has to do with board packets, right? Board packets. I had to do so many board packets, and it was always a process that I was like, there's got to be a better way. The board packet prep every single month would just like eat up like at least half of my day. And I'm a very productive worker just by nature. Like I move very quickly. I make decisions very quickly. Like I'm just very productive. But board packets are also a pain point that AI can be used to alleviate. It can analyze all the numbers that it needs to analyze in the board packet. It can assemble the board packet. And if you can get your board to get on board with like digital sharing, instead of, paper-based, the AI can actually produce the board packet and send it out for you. So
Wow.
some pretty incredible things.
That's awesome. Oh my gosh. Thank you for sharing that. And I really I want to own in. If you're listening to this, I know you've seen all the videos out there, you've probably listened to a lot of podcasts on AI. And that's honestly one of the reasons, Katie, that I wanted you to kind of speak to our audience is we just did not want, we did not want this to be another product sales or product recommendation program. We really want it to be things that embeds into everyday life, that makes life more comfortable. I remember working with an organization, a small business, many years ago, lifetimes ago, and just being able to streamline. And today, they'll say AI did it, but not everything you call AI is AI, but everything that used to be just streamlining process is now called AI. So there's a little bit of confusion in languaging, but it's okay. Just being able to streamline back then in my accounting role, streamline the payroll process alone saved us a week each month in, time consumed on just one task. And that was a lot of dollars when you put our department salary together.
Yes.
And so when I think about, effectively using AI is with people, because people are going to inform the future and inform how AI should work and really inform what it should be doing, what direction it needs to go and things like that. And then, editing and correcting AI. And that one of my AI heroes talks about, AI not taking your job, but you being an executive that manages and directs the AI is where you want to position yourself for that not to happen. So I think you're telling our audience that you can work well with AI, but you need to be a part of that equation to make it function well, but also to get the results that you want and manage the future of your organization. Is that what I'm hearing?
Exactly, exactly. Yes. And I always try to explain to people there years ago, I was listening to a podcast that had to do with like emotional regulation and, like nervous system healing and so on and so forth. And the woman was saying like, okay, we don't let our emotions drive the car, right? But we also don't throw our emotions in the trunk. And that's kind of my position with AI is like, okay, AI is not driving my car, but I'm also not going to throw it in the trunk. It gets invited to have a seat, in that with me and help, co-pilot the adventure that we're having. But I'm always the human in the loop. So that's what I teach across all of my classes and all my certifications, and the workflows that I build have human checkpoints built in because we need quality control checks. And here's something that a lot of people it's simple, but it's not obvious, right? And that's like a theme across all AI. There's tons of times in my classes when people are like, "Wow, I would have never thought to ask the AI to do that." It's simple, but it's not obvious. So one of the things is when you're working with AI is actually better than humans at creating the first draft of something. That's why as humans, we have an expression called writer's block, right? We're staring at that blank cursor. As humans, we get writer's block because it's really hard for us to start. It's hard to take the
Right.
first step. It's hard
Yeah.
to write your sentence down, right? So, but as humans, we are remarkably good at editing. And so, if you know how to work with your AI to get AI to generate the first draft, then we get to come in as an editor. And so that's one simple but not obvious way to work with AI. And I think that that probably also illustrates what I'm talking about is that this is a people and psychology problem, not a tools and technology problem, because this is fundamentally changing the way that humans work.
So my favorite AI investor and guru is Dan Martell, whom I told you about recently. And he always talks about you start with your 10%, let the AI do the 80%, and then you use the last 10% to refine it into what it needs to be. And I've adopted that model. Like I would start something and just say, this is what I need. And then of course I realized that when I tweak it, I just make it completely mine. I can override some things and then I put it back and say, okay, now analyze this. And it comes back and of course AI is supposed to kind of stroke your ego and say, you did great. And I go, okay, cut out the bullshit.
Yes.
Oh, wait. And I go, don't stroke my ego, cut out the BS, and let's get to work. And then, we go analytic. And I learned that from Dan. And I, it's something that's really helped me a lot working with AI. And
Yep.
I still have a long way to go.
Yeah, no, that is a very, very good approach. That's a very, very good approach. You start with you put your human 10% in, you ask AI to do that 80%, and then you're the arbiter of quality for the last 10%. It's interesting that you say that because this is actually the way that we believe we're going to see subject matter experts contribute in the future. Because now with OpenAI putting out the study showing that AI is it equals subject matter expertise 70% of the time. It has a win tie rate to subject matter experts 70% of the time. So what happens to subject matter experts, right? So what we believe we're going to see in the future is a shift in the economy to subject matter experts providing the last mile work. So kind of like in your example, right?
Yeah.
You get AI to do that 80% heavy lifting, and subject matter experts now come in to do that last piece. and that, that idea means a lot of budget savings for economic development organizations and small businesses who know how to reallocate that savings. Right now, if historically they spent XYZ on subject matter experts because they had outsourced something, and now they're reducing the amount of money that they're spending on subject matter experts to only 20% of that. Now they have resources that can be redeployed.
Absolutely. So the Peru principle still holds true for AI implementation and adoption. All right. Let's shift the new skills gap. So we're seeing a shift from labor-based growth to productivity-driven growth. What specific AI literacy skills should Texas economic development professionals and, frankly, small business owners prioritize today to stay competitive as ecosystem builders over the next 3 years? I guess more so to the EDPs than small business owners.
Yeah, well, and I think that you're really going to appreciate the answer to this because of your specialization in ecosystem building. But this isn't about technical literacy. I think that there's a lot of people that are intimidated by AI because they think that it's too techy. It
Yeah.
really is. It really isn't. It really isn't. Again, back to the simple but not obvious idea. But what folks should strengthen has to do with systems thinking, right? We believe that instead of processes based on role, we are going to see processes based on chain of value. Right. So historically, you have an HR department, you have a finance department, you have a whatever, department.
Yeah.
What I believe we're going to see next is we're going to see an individual that's responsible for a chain of value from start to finish, even if it crosses department lines.
Yeah.
So folks need to get good at systems thinking and understanding where does AI fit versus where does human judgment still matter.
Yeah.
Folks also need to be good with data stewardship. And I encourage all leaders to create their own personal AI policy so that they know, like, where are my red lines as a leader? What are some ways that I will never use AI? And also I think that we're going to see our clients and customers in the future asking of us as leaders, how are you using AI and what are you doing with my data? And as leaders, we have to be able to respond to that. But a personal AI policy can state, like, listen, this is how I use your data. These are the red lines for me. This is what you can always expect from me. Like, every time I use AI, there is a human reviewer in the loop. And if I accidentally publish a mistake, here's what I'm willing to do about it to make it right for you. So data stewardship and also strategic translation, I think, is going to be super important, especially for economic development organizations or anyone who is quasi-governmental, because historically, the government is a slow adopter, right? And that's a good thing because they report to taxpayers about how they're using our money. And so it's good that they are risk averse, However, economic development organizations and anyone who's in the quasi-governmental space needs to get very good at communicating AI value to their boards, to their elected officials, and to their skeptics, because those are the stakeholders that will be voting and making decisions on whether or not they have access to these tools.
I love what you said about having a personal AI policy. That is, oh my gosh. I just want to sit in that. No, it's really resounding for organizations, and also for us, even as individuals. What are those things? What are those lines I don't want to cross in my role or, on the job? And then how do I hold up my integrity in a world that's shifting and changing? And I promise you, this is going to translate to legal savings, you know, as things blow up and, we're a less than happy country. But I feel like having a policy like that would help organizations stay, um, have better liability policies that are not off the roof charts.
I completely agree. And I can't take credit for this idea. This idea actually came from Anne Murphy, the founder of She Leads AI. I was in one of her workshops, and similar to you, like she mentioned this idea of an AI, personal AI policy. And I, just like you said, like, I need to sit in this for a minute. Like, I was like, that is brilliant. And so what I ended up doing with Anne's concept, her idea, like she gave us some best practices about, here's some things to ask yourself. And I turned that into an AI action class that I've now hosted on a couple of different occasions. One most recently for Women's Innovation Network in Fredericksburg, Texas. And they also really love the idea, but it's definitely an opportunity for us as leaders going forward to answer these questions and have our own personal integrity in alignment with how we want to show up as leaders, because there will be mistakes, like we don't know what's going to happen. We don't know what the mistakes are going to be, but I really believe that starting with a personal AI policy can save us a lot of heartaches as we navigate this unknown area. It gives us an opportunity when we're asked to do something, with AI that may be against our personal AI policy. We can say, hey, listen, I need to have a conversation about this because I'm concerned about XYZ, and how are we protecting so on and so forth. And everybody has a different opinion on this. Like one of the questions or one of the examples that Anne gave in her workshop was, she was like, some folks choose not to use AI for writing a personal thank you note, for example, right? And like,
Yes.
that makes sense to me, like, dear mom, thank you for, like, that feels a little weird, right? But everybody has a different relationship with AI and a different level. And like myself, for example, like I use AI very liberally. And so, if it's not my mom or dad, I probably wouldn't have a problem using AI to write a thank you letter.
That is so true. Oh, wow. I've never thought about using AI to write personal letters, even though some of them is not crappy, but business letters all the time.
Yeah. But the personal AI policy gives you an opportunity to think about these other applications that, are just on the backside of the decisions we're making.
So if you're small business owners, you probably feel like we've talked a lot to the economic development professionals and ecosystem builders, but here's a question that you can relate to even more. So Katie, the small business lifeline, talking about small business lifeline, many Texan small businesses are worried about being left behind by the AI revolution. What is the role of an EDC in providing the digital infrastructure or training programs that help traditional Main Street businesses adopt AI?
Very good question, and one that's super close to my heart, of course, because I am in a small community. I publish a hyperlocal digital newsletter for a community that's aimed at supporting our Main Street businesses. So this is also a passion project of mine. And before I answer the question, the first thing I want to do is encourage any small business owners that are listening, because I really think this is an opportunity and it's a threat, and each small business owner gets to choose whether it's an opportunity or a threat for them. But the good news is that these small business owners, these Main Street business owners, since they're small, they can pivot, they can be nimble, they can try a bunch of different experiments. They're not like this Fortune 500 company that's got, 3,000 employees and they're like, man, we got to send this to legal and we got to send it to wherever we got to, like a small business owner Street can decide this afternoon, like, listen, I am not going to get, like washed away in the tide of AI. I'm going to choose right now to, empower myself to claim my AI fluency, right? So
Yes.
Main Street business owners have the ability to do that immediately right now. And I encourage them to do that because, again, the small teams who use these tools have, the biggest impact. But specifically to the EDC's role, EDCs, of course, excel in the role of convener, right?
Yeah.
So I don't see EDCs in the role of being like an overnight tech trainer. But certainly, economic development organizations can partner with their small business development center, their community college, their technical college. They can co-host workshops. I've done tons of AI workshops for economic development associations in different states, teaching their practitioners like what is possible. So there's tons of things. Of course, there's the peer learning model, which is kind of what you're creating.
Yeah.
Peers, helping each other in their ecosystem. So there's tons of ways that an EDO can act in their role as convener and bring these cross-industry partnerships together for the greater benefit of Main Street business owners. And again, to these Main Street business owners, you do not need an enterprise AI system. Like, you can go a long way with like a free ChatGPT account, or even upgrading to $20 a month. QuickBooks is way more than that.
And if you have Gmail, you can also use Gemini.
Yeah, exactly. If you use the Google Suite, you automatically get an upgraded Gemini. So that is another. If you're using Gmail for the Google Drive or your email clients, your calendar links, you can use Gemini. So what I would say is that it's just really important to meet people where the friction is, not where the hype is. So I would ask a Main Street business owner, like, okay, what is one problem? What problem would you attempt to solve first with AI? Make sure that you're solving a real problem.
So we always end every episode with one question. Mm-hmm. What advice do you have for today's entrepreneur?
What advice do I have for today's entrepreneur?
Yeah.
Prioritize AI fluency. Like I said, what is happening in changing the way that we work, it's an opportunity and it's a threat. Don't put your head in the sand on this. Like, prioritize your AI fluency so that you can leverage this moment in history for your benefit instead of being behind the eight ball. You want to grab this bull by the horns.
That's awesome. Katie, it's been such a delight to chat with you today.
My pleasure.
I've loved learning from you, and I love the work that you're doing because it really just intertwines with how we want to serve small businesses and particularly economic development professionals. So if you're listening to this podcast today, guys, Katie is giving us Texas Entrepreneur Ecosystem a 10% coupon on our services. Whether you're a professional or a small business owner or an economic development professional, and you're just looking for ways to master AI, apply it in such a way that it saves you money, and then grow revenue in your business or community. We're really excited. This was never planned. We're really excited that Katie would do that for our audience and collaborators. So, Katie, I know we don't have a code right now because it wasn't planned. But if you send it to us, we'll be willing and happy to put it in the show notes and share it with our community. Thank you
pleasure.
So much for being here. This has really been a treat. And I'm honestly just honored to learn from you and just and share your knowledge with our audience, knowing that they're really going to get the tools. So if you don't know much about Katie, you need to follow her on LinkedIn. And it's Katie Milton Jordan on LinkedIn, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's Katie, Katie, Milton, Milton, and Jordan, Jordan. Find her on LinkedIn and connect with her. And or email us, and we'll be happy to share our information with you. And so if you really want to get more competitive and not just listen to the noise and, trying to figure out what products to use, you really want to apply techniques that are going to help you increase your revenue, Katie's your girl.
Well, thank you so much for having me on the show, and I look forward to continued collaboration for the benefit of your community.